Okay. Chalo, Alim, do you know what is so why do we require SQL Server? First of all,
Sorry, sir.
why do we require SQL Server?
Uh, for managing the data, sir, there's lots of data in the organization. So I should, uh,
Mm-hmm.
yes, for managing the data in the structured way. I thought, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Today, just we will discuss about the introduction about the SQL Server. What is SQL Server? How it has started? All those things we will discuss in today's uh, session. Okay. Yesterday we have discussed. Yesterday we have discussed what is our core syllabus, what are the things we are going to provide. Everything we have discussed in yesterday's session. Today we are going to discuss about the SQL Server. What is SQL Server? Why do we require this SQL Server? Okay, and what are the advantages of SQL Server? Everything we are going to discuss about the SQL Server. One second, I am sharing my screen. Let me know, guys. You are able to see the screen. Yeah, actually, SQL Server. You need to pronounce the even though this is a SQL server, even though this is a SQL server, you need to pronounce SQL server. You need to pronounce as a SQL server. This is the professional way to pronounce the SQL server. Okay, I will tell you later what is the meaning of this SQL and all. We are going to discuss about the SQL server. See what is SQL server? SQL server is a one second. SQL server is a RDBMS software. RDBMS software. Okay, and which is used to one second. See, SQL server is an a RDBMS software which will help you to store the data, process the data, and then retrieve the data. We will talk later what is the meaning of data and everything. So this is SQL server is an RDBMS software. What is the meaning of RDBMS, guys? What is the meaning of
Relational data management system. Data store which form of tables.
RDBMS? Nageshwar Rao, what is the meaning of RDBMS?
Relational database management system.
Relational database management system. Usually, when the database world has started, so before the 89 like that, there was a DBMS. Data was storing in your files. In those files, we have a little bit problems and then disadvantages. Then we came up with the RDBMS. Microsoft SQL Server is an RDBMS software. Okay, RDBMS software which is used to store the data, retrieve the data, and then process the data. So technically, before discussing about the what is the meaning of RDBMS, what is the meaning of database, usually why are we using the Microsoft SQL Server in our regular day-by-day activities? Why do we require this SQL Server, guys? Any idea?
For the analysis the data.
Sorry?
Mainly it is used for the analysis the data.
Yeah. First of all, let's consider, guys. Just leave about the SQL Server, leave about the technical things. First of all, why do we require SQL Server? How we are going to use this SQL Server in our day-by-day regular activities? Let us discuss on this. First of all, what is the meaning of database? How this database is going to useful for our regular activities, and then how it will helpful for the SQL server. Let's consider like you are starting or set up the new business. Let's say a pharmacy business, Apollo pharmacy business. In that Apollo pharmacy business, you want to store the data. Usually in the general stores, where do they store the data, guys? Where do they store the data?
Excel sheets like that.
Excel sheets, okay. Still, yeah. So based on their comfortable, they maybe store the data in Excel sheet. They maybe store the data in the books also. They maybe store the data in the notepad, something else. But as this is a new era, we need to store the data into the, so suppose if you store the data into the spreadsheets, if you store the data into the any other different files, if you store the data into the any other formats, we don't have a lot of issues. Like we have a security issues, we have a redundant issues, we have a readability issues, we have a lot many problems with the files. Yes or no, guys?
Yes.
Because suppose let's consider in your Apollo pharmacy, you are going to maintain your business entire business data into the spreadsheet, but that spreadsheet you can only open in your location, and you can only read one user at a time, and you can modify the data like anything. There are no restrictions on the spreadsheets. Yes or no? So
Yes.
concurrent users cannot be access the data from the spreadsheets, and we don't have a security from the spreadsheets. Concurrent users, if suppose I am sitting in one location from the Hyderabad location, you are sitting in the other part of the Hyderabad location, but you want to read the data from the multiple locations. Multiple users want to read the same data from the multiple locations. If the data is available in the spreadsheets or files, it is not possible to read the data from the spreadsheets which is available in your local machine. Yes or no? And easily, whatever the business data you have stored, you have stored in the spreadsheets or different files, easily you can able to modify, or easily others can able to read the data, others can able to modify the data. So there are no security for the data which is available in the file. Yes or no? Guys, Alim, following.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So to overcome all those things, we have a Microsoft SQL Server. To overcome all those things, we have a Microsoft SQL Server. Microsoft SQL Server is a relational database management system where you can able to store your business data. Suppose you are maintaining your business data. You want to store your business data into the Microsoft SQL Server. So this is an RDBMS system. This is an RDBMS software. You can store your entire business data into the database, so that you will be having a lot of advantages in the Microsoft SQL Server. Whenever you want to set up your business, you want to store your business data into the your business data into the database. Microsoft SQL Server is the very much suitable for your business data. And what is the reason why we are going to store the our business data into the Microsoft SQL Server? Why we need to choose only Microsoft SQL Server? We have a lot of advantages. We'll discuss one by one. But before to that, if you talk about the very basic, if you talk about the very basic thing, what is one second, what is SQL Server means? SQL Server is an RDBMS software which is used to store the data, retrieve the data, and then process the data. RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. So, what is the meaning of RDBMS? RDBMS nothing but whatever you are going to store the data into the database in SQL Server database, the data will be stored in form of a different multiple tables. Suppose you have a employee data, you want to store the employee data into the your SQL Server database. You are going to store the employee data into the multiple tables, and the multiple tables will be having a relationship between the each table. Suppose let's consider, one second, let me open Excel sheet. So you will be having a employee ID, employee name, okay, employee department ID, employee department name, salary, okay, and then project, and then address 1, address 2, email, phone, etc. See, just I am giving an example. So these are the columns which are having a in a employee table column. So these are the columns we have a for the employee related data, to maintain the employee related data. So these are the example for the employee related data. Now suppose let's consider if you have a lot of and huge number of columns in a single table, then you can't able to store all the data and then all the columns in a single table. You are going to split into a multiple columns, and then you are going to store your employee data into the multiple tables. And by splitting a data into the multiple tables, you are going to maintain a relationship between the multiple tables. That is called as an RDBMS software. RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. The business data is going to store in a multiple tables in the SQL Server. Each table will be having a relationship between the each table. Do you know what is the meaning of relation, guys? Do you know what is the meaning of relation?
Suppose one product is a relation with some like
Now your voice is not audible.
the relationship means you have two tables in between the one of the relation. So like this type of relation, right?
Okay. Relationship, that's what. See, relationship nothing but you are going to store a data into the multiple tables. Whatever I have taken the example, employee data, employee ID, employee name will be stored in a one table, and then remaining columns, department number, department ID, salary, address related columns will be stored into the other tables. And these two tables will be having a relationship between the parent table and then child table. That's why we can call it as a RDBMS software. See, usually your business data is going to store into a multiple tables, not into a single tables. Your business data is going to divide into the multiple tables. Okay, divide into the multiple tables, and each table will be having a relationship between the each and every table. So we have a concept called constants in a SQL Server. While discussing on the constant topic, then we are going to see what is the meaning of relationship and all. Just for now, you just try to understand what is the meaning of SQL Server. SQL Server is an RDBMS software which is used to store the data. See, you have stored you have set up your SQL Server software for your Apollo Pharmacy, your customer information, your product information, your payment related information, your order related information, everything you have stored a data, everything you have stored a data in a SQL Server software. Okay, SQL Server database, and all those information are stored into a multiple tables, stored into the multiple tables. What is happening? One second. So all those that entire data is going to store into the multiple different tables, and whatever the data you are going to store, whatever the data you are going to store in your tables will be having a relationship between the each and every table. That is the meaning of your RDBMS software. So your business data is going to store in a different tables. That is the meaning of you can able to store the data into the SQL Server. What is the meaning of retrieve the data? You have stored your business data into the SQL Server. Suppose Apollo Pharmacy business, you have stored the customer related data, you have stored the product related data, you have stored the order related data, you have stored the payment related data. As a customer, I am going to visit the Apollo Pharmacy, and then I want to buy some medicines from the Apollo Pharmacy. So in that case, Apollo Pharmacy people will pull the customer information based on your mobile number. So that is retrieve the data. So they can able to see the history of your prescriptions. So what was the medicines you have purchased previously, and how many quantity you have purchased. Everything they can able to see based on your unique ID or based on your mobile number. So that is the retrieve the data. Process the data. Process means, suppose let's say already you have stored the data and you want to change the your address details or mobile number or email ID, whatever it is. You want to process the data, you want to manage the data, you want to update the data. So by using a SQL Server software, you can manage the data, you can update the data. As a customer, already the data is stored about your customer ID, but in future, or you have changed the address, you have changed the location, you need to change that address to their database. So based on your mobile number, they are going to change the address of the particular customer. If you have changed the address from the one location to other location, if you have changed the email IDs from one email ID to other email ID, then you can able to process the data. So this is the meaning of what is SQL Server. SQL Server is an RDBMS software which is used to retrieve the data, and then process the data, store the data. Now, this SQL Server is a Microsoft product. SQL Server is a Microsoft product, and which is an RDBMS software. Can you give me examples? Can you give me examples of RDBMS software, guys? Other RDBMS softwares. Anyone?
MS SQL, SQL
M-
Server,
One second. MS SQL Server is, that is what we are going to discuss now. We are discussing now. Apart from SQL Server,
MySQL,
MySQL is RDBMS. Yes. One second.
Oracle,
RDBMS, MySQL, Oracle, still
SAP,
DB2, still Teradata, right?
MongoDB.
PostgreSQL,
Postgres, correct. MongoDB is not an RDBMS, I guess. That is an
yes, DBMS.
yes. So Postgres, so etc. So these are the example for the RDBMS. Ours is MS SQL. Now we are here to discuss about the MS SQL, right? MS SQL, Microsoft SQL Server. Microsoft SQL Server is a relational database which is developed by the Microsoft company. Okay, it is developed by the Microsoft company. Like that, other RDBMS, So these are the products from the different companies. DB2 from the IBM, Teradata from the Teradata, Oracle from the Oracle, MySQL from the Sun Microsystems, Microsoft MS SQL from the Microsoft. Like that, we have a lot of RDBMS, softwares in the market. Now, when did this Microsoft SQL Server was started? When did this Microsoft SQL Server was started? Any idea, guys? Any idea? When did this Microsoft SQL Server was started?
Two thousand.
Any idea?
No, I don't have.
Yeah. Microsoft. One second. Yeah. See, initially the concept database was invented, identified, or developed by the company called Sybase in the year of 1980s. Okay. Initially no one. So as we are discussing about all this, RDBMS software examples, no one has developed the all servers we can use in single application or different applications. Ashutosh, we will be having a doubts and then questions end of the sessions. Okay, is that fine?
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. See, the database world, the database itself, the database concept. After 10 minutes, it is going to end, guys. You can use the same link and then we can resign. Okay, guys, can you confirm?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So after 10 minutes, because this is a free version of the Zoom software, it will allow only for the 40 minutes. After completion of automatically it will complete after 10 minutes. Don't get the surprise. After completion of 10 minutes, automatically it will close. We will resign by using the same link. Okay, you can use the same link to join into the session. Now, the concept called database was invented in the era of 1980s with the Sybase company. Sybase company has developed the database concept. Later, after the 1980s, see here, 1980s, software was developed by the Sybase company, and Microsoft bought a logic from the Sybase and they designed their own database, MS SQL Server. Later, after 1980s, the very first company was developed the database concept by the Sybase company. After the 1980s, Microsoft has purchased the logic from the Sybase, and then they have developed their own Microsoft SQL Server database with the logic of Sybase company. That's how it has started. From the 1980s. I have listed all the things when it started in 1980. SQL Server, everything it has taken from the Sybase. All those things, everything I have listed here. The overall high level, initially, the Sybase company was developed the database concept, and later Microsoft company has bought the logic from the Sybase company, and Microsoft has developed its own database product called MS SQL Server. Whatever we are discussing, whatever we are going to work, that is a Microsoft SQL Server. The originally logic has taken from the Sybase company. And then now, what are the different advantages we have with the key features of SQL Server? Why do we require SQL Server, guys? What are the any advantages? Any idea?
We can store the huge amount of data. We can retrieve the data accurately.
Okay.
We can manipulate that easily.
No, we can
reduce the data.
We can store the huge data. We can able to retrieve the accurately. Then
protection, mainly protection.
Security.
For analysis of the history data.
Analysis of the history data. Okay. Chalo. We will discuss why do we require this SQL server. Okay. One by one. See, this is first of all, very first thing, key features of SQL server. This is RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. RDBMS, Relational Database Relational System. In this, very first thing is, as one of your friend has mentioned, that you can able to store the data. SQL server uses the SQL language for managing and querying a relational database, support the complex queries, transactions, and data manipulation. Very first thing is, already we have discussed RDBMS. Using an RDBMS, you can able to store the data, retrieve the data, and then manage the data. Second thing is data security. Data security. You can't able to easily manipulate the data. You can't able to easily load the data into the SQL server without having a proper privileges. Suppose I have a one employee table, that is customer table. I don't have a access on the table. Then I can't able to load the data into the customer table. I can't able to read the data from the customer table. I can't able to modify the data from the customer table. So that is the data security. Suppose that is a sensitive data, that is a customer related data, that is a personal data. No one can easily read the data, so that database administrators can restrict on the tables, so that you can't able to read the data, you can't easily manipulate the data, you can't able to load the data into the tables. That's how not only a tables, we have a lot many objects in the SQL server. They can able to restrict you, they can able to allow you, they can able to restrict you to work with the objects. That's why you have a data security. See here, SQL Server offers you robust security features, including a data encryption, accessing control. I told you, you can't able to access easily. You can't able to auditing. It supports the transparent data encryption to encrypt the data at rest, always encrypted. So this is overall easily you can't able to read the data, you can't able to load the data without having a proper privileges. So protecting your data, that is one of the key feature of data security. High availability and the disaster recovery. What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this high availability and the disaster recovery, guys? Any idea? Suppose let's consider you are working on the production environment. You are working on the production environment due to some XYZ reason, that in the production environment your database has went to the offline. Then you are not able to access. You are not able to access the database now. Then what you will do? Once again, I will tell you. You are working in the production environment. You are working on the one database. Due to some XYZ reason, it went to the offline mode. It went to the single user mode. It went to the database crash. So in that scenario, now you can't able to access the database, and then you can't able to do anything. Then what is the option? Then what are the different options to have the access the data, guys? Any idea? Guys, have you clear on the question?
Yeah, clear.
No. Suppose if your database went to the offline, if database went to the single user mode, or if your database is crashed, then how you will read the data from the database? Do we have option? Do we have option to if the database is crashed? Again, do we have options? Any other options to see the data in SQL Server or any other database?
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah, see, that's what SQL Server has provided the beautiful features. They will maintain the suppose you have a production database, the same with the features of disaster and then disaster recovery and then high availability concept. You have a mirroring, you have a clustering, you have a log shipping, you have a snapshot, mirroring, clustering, and then log shipping. By using all those four concepts are high availability and then disaster recovery concept. What they will do, these things under database administrator concept, what they will do, they will exactly maintain the primary node. You are working, your production environment is a primary server. Exactly, they will maintain the replica of your primary server. That is nothing but a secondary node. Whenever something happens to the primary node, they will up the secondary node because there is a live synchronization between the server 1 and then to the server 2 by using a high availability and then disaster recovery. If something happens to the server 1, immediately within a fraction of second, you can switch to the server 2. So you can't able to see the data loss. You can't able to stop your application. Immediately you can switch to the server 2 and then start working on your requirement. That is a high availability and then disaster recovery. So we have a lot of log shipping, mirroring, clustering, snapshot. These are the 4 concepts you can achieve with the high availability and then disaster recovery to maintain the data synchronized between the multiple servers. Okay, performance optimization here. What is the meaning of performance optimization? So here in the SQL server, you are going to handle the robust data, huge data, and then you are going to implement the huge SQL code. If when the data is grows into the database, maybe your SQL server code may become a performance issue. What is the meaning of performance issue, guys? What is the meaning of performance issue?
It means your bulk amount of data, that cases you can get the performance issue.
Sorry?
The lack of data, sir.
No, I'm not able to hear you guys.
Something lack of data.
Hello? Am I
Yeah,
audible?
what is the meaning of performance issue?
Performance issue means if you want